Elora, Vance, and Ryder Kelm were once just names in a small-town neighborhood, until they vanished with assault rifles, cartel cash, and a trail of fentanyl that stretched across 3 states. Now they're known as the Fugitive Lovers who turned suburbia into a war zone, and their violent capture in a wild drug raid shocked the nation. Elora, Vance had always been the type of woman who could disappear into a crowd. With her striking blonde hair and polished smile, most people assumed she lived a normal life. A woman who once graced local beauty pageants, now faded into the background of small-town Nevada. But beneath the surface, she carried secrets that no one in her suburban neighborhood could have imagined. Her partner, Ryder Kelm, had a past just as complicated. Once a respected bounty hunter who chased fugitives for cash, he had grown disillusioned with the justice system. After years of skirting danger for other people's problems, he crossed a line from hunter to outlaw. Together, Elora and Ryder became a pair fueled by desperation, greed, and a hunger for something bigger than the dull routines of everyday life. Their descent into crime began quietly. It started with minor drug runs packages slipped into Elora's designer handbags, late-night drives to distant truck stops, small exchanges for easy cash. But their ambition grew faster than their caution. When they connected with Callan Rourke, a mid-level cartel operative known for supplying weapons and narcotics across state lines, their lives changed forever. Rourke didn't deal with petty street dealers. He was the kind of man who built armies in the shadows. He provided them with AK-47s, burner phones, and access to a criminal network far beyond anything they had encountered before. The neighborhood noticed changes before the police did. Neighbors whispered about the strange cars that arrived at the couple's house in the middle of the night. Some saw Ryder unloading heavy duffel bags from the back of black SUVs with tinted windows. Others reported hearing muffled gunshots from the garage, but no one called the police. Fear kept them silent. Elora and Ryder had become something other than neighbors. They were now a ghost story that lived next door. When they vanished, it wasn't just a simple runaway case. Their house was found abandoned, the front door swinging open in the dry Nevada wind. Inside, agents discovered a scene that suggested a planned escape. Documents had been shredded and burned in the kitchen sink. Security cameras mounted around. The property had been smashed, wires dangling from cracked plastic housings. In the master bedroom, an empty gun safe sat wide open, its steel door left ajar. Hidden beneath the floorboards of a locked closet, law enforcement uncovered multiple passports with fake identities, stacks of unregistered SIM cards, and small bags containing white powder residue later confirmed to be cocaine. The investigation uncovered that Elora and Ryder had used burner phones to coordinate drug shipments between Nevada, Arizona, and New Mexico. They weren't just runners anymore. They had become a key link in a pipeline that transported fentanyl, methamphetamine, and illegal weapons across the Southwest. Each new piece of evidence pointed to a more disturbing reality. The couple had shifted from small-time smugglers to high-level fugitives armed for survival. Despite intensive searches, they left no immediate trail. Surveillance footage from local gas stations captured glimpses of their last known movements. Elora refueling a silver SUV at a remote truck stop. Ryder pacing near the entrance of a convenience store, his eyes scanning the parking lot for tails. After that, they disappeared off the grid. Law enforcement agencies checked border crossings, airports, and bus stations, but found nothing. It was as if they had evaporated into the desert air. What no one knew was that Elora and Ryder had been preparing for this escape for months. Their house had been a suburban mask hiding their transition into cartel soldiers. They had purchased survival gear, studied topographical maps, and memorized backroads that even local law enforcement rarely used. Their new life wasn't about hiding. It was about outgunning and outsmarting anyone who tried to catch them. For Elora and Ryder, this wasn't a getaway, it was the beginning of a war against the system that once controlled them. 3 months. After Elora, Vance, and Ryder Kelm vanished from Nevada, their trail resurfaced in a place no one expected, a decaying roadside motel outside a forgotten Arizona town. The motel had been abandoned for years, its neon signs rusted and faded, its windows covered with dust and grime. Locals whispered about strange activities there. Cars parked for hours with engines idling. Strangers carrying heavy bags into back. Rooms and shadows moving in the broken glass reflections. When law enforcement finally raided the property, what they found confirmed their worst fears. Beneath room 8 of the motel, hidden under a trapdoor covered by rotting carpet, was a bunker carved directly into the desert soil. It wasn't large, but it was meticulously organized. Wooden crates lined the walls, each labeled with false shipping manifests. Inside those crates were AK-47 assault rifles, high-capacity magazines, smoke grenades, and tactical vests bearing no insignia. Next to the weapons, agents found duffel bags stuffed with bundles of fentanyl pills marked with the stamp of a Mexican. Cartel. On a battered table, maps and satellite images detailed rural roads, law enforcement checkpoints, and safe houses across 4 states. In one of the crates, agents found something even more alarming, a burner phone with encrypted text. Messages and GPS coordinates saved under a folder labeled Canyon. When investigators decoded the data, the coordinates pointed to a desolate stretch of land miles away from any town. The location matched no official maps, but satellite images showed a small clearing surrounded by sandstone cliffs and jagged rocks. It was the kind of place where people went to disappear. Agents sent a reconnaissance team to the site, expecting to find another stash house or weapons drop. What they discovered was far worse. Hidden within the canyon walls was a second bunker, this one even more sophisticated than the first. A solar-powered battery system provided electricity, while ventilation pipes disguised as rocks allowed air to flow underground. Inside, agents found survival supplies that could last for months: canned food, medical kits, satellite phones, and fake passports under new aliases. There was even a laptop connected to a network of wireless cameras planted around the perimeter, indicating that Elora and Ryder had been monitoring anyone approaching for days, maybe weeks. Among the items seized from the canyon bunker were several hard drives filled with cartel communications. The data revealed that Elora and Ryder were no longer just running drugs. They had been helping to coordinate shipments, laundering money through cryptocurrency wallets, and building an arms pipeline that supplied weapons to cartel affiliates across state lines. Their skills had evolved beyond transportation. They were now operating like guerrilla agents, moving through the Southwest as ghosts with assault rifles. Further investigation revealed a terrifying pattern. Over the past 2 months, at least, 4 rival drug runners had been found dead in remote locations, their bodies riddled with bullets matching the same caliber as the AK-47s found in the motel bunker. Law enforcement suspected Elora and Ryder had eliminated competition to solidify their position in the cartel network. It was no longer about smuggling drugs, it was about power, territory, and survival. Agents realized that these fugitives weren't just running from the law anymore. They were running a fully operational criminal enterprise from the shadows, using safe houses, encrypted messages, and hidden weapons caches spread across multiple states. The discovery of the canyon bunker changed everything. This wasn't a couple in over their heads. This was a pair of outlaws who had meticulously planned for every scenario, turning their fugitive status into an advantage. Law enforcement officials intensified their efforts, but they knew they were now facing something far more dangerous than expected. Elora and Ryder were no longer just criminals on the run. They were fugitives who had prepared for war, and they were ready to fight anyone who tried to stop them. After the canyon bunker raid, law enforcement agencies realized that tracking Elora, Vance, and Ryder Kelm required more than standard procedures. Agent Micah Rudd, who had been leading the D Task Force, knew the couple would not surface again, unless lured out by something they couldn't resist. That's when he decided to bait them using information intercepted from cartel communications. An upcoming fentanyl shipment worth millions was scheduled to cross state lines, and according to decrypted texts, Elora and Ryder were in charge of overseeing the transport personally. This was the first break in the case since the Canyon discovery. Sting operation was set in motion under the code name Ghost Net. The plan involved staging a fake drug convoy along Interstate 70, just outside of Moab, Utah. Surveillance drones were deployed overhead while undercover agents posed as drivers. A semi-truck carrying fake duffel bags filled with inert powder was rigged with tracking devices, waiting for Elora and Ryder to make a move. The couple had a reputation for personally inspecting high-value shipments, and the task force hoped they would step out of the shadows to ensure everything went smoothly. At a rest stop near the Utah border, grainy drone footage confirmed their presence. Ryder Kelm, dressed in tactical black, was seen pacing near the fuel pumps, his AK-47 slung casually over his shoulder. Elora Vance followed close behind, wearing a designer hoodie concealing a bulletproof vest. She carried a duffel bag, assumed to contain cash or encrypted devices. The two moved with practiced precision, transferring bags between vehicles, checking license plates, and scanning their surroundings for any sign of surveillance. Unbeknownst to them, law enforcement had placed a GPS tracker beneath the Suburban they used for transport. For the first time in months, agents believed they had the fugitives cornered. But the confidence was premature. As the Suburban pulled away from the rest stop, it drove for exactly 20 miles before stopping at an isolated gas station in the middle of nowhere. There, Elora and Ryder switched cars, abandoning the Suburban and its GPS tracker in favor of a dusty blue pickup truck with stolen plates. The move was classic counter-surveillance, something Ryder had learned during his days as a bounty hunter. By the time the task force realized the switch had happened, the couple was already gone. This pattern wasn't new for them. They had spent months rehearsing evasion tactics. Using burner phones, they rerouted their paths constantly, avoiding main highways and using rural side roads where surveillance was scarce. Each time they traveled, they used decoy vehicles and fake traffic accidents to confuse law enforcement. Their tactics were so effective that even top-level agents struggled to keep up. The loss of the GPS signal forced Agent Rudd to change strategy again. Instead of pursuing them directly, the DI targeted their supplier, Cal Rourke. Within days, a federal raid on Rourke's ranch compound yielded documents, encrypted ledgers, and a cache of weapons. The evidence suggested Rourke was skimming profits from cartel bosses, creating a vulnerability that law enforcement quickly exploited. Facing the possibility of death at the hands of his own cartel, Rourke agreed to cooperate. Rourke revealed that Elora and Ryder were planning one final run, a multi-million-dollar fentanyl deal set to happen at a remote safe house outside Albuquerque. The location was chosen specifically because it was off-grid, inaccessible to most law enforcement, and outfitted with security measures designed by Ryder himself. What Rourke didn't know was that the couple had already started to suspect his betrayal. They had planted surveillance cameras around the safe house and created multiple escape tunnels in case of a raid. Despite their paranoia, they couldn't see the full picture. Rourke's cooperation gave authorities exactly what they needed. It wasn't just about arresting two fugitives anymore. It was about dismantling the entire pipeline of weapons and drugs flowing through the Southwest. The next step would be the riskiest yet a high-stakes operation, designed to end the couple's run for good. As the Albuquerque safe house became the next focal point in the investigation, law enforcement tightened their net. Agent Micah Rudd and Sergeant Donna Clove formed a joint task force combining FBI, and local SWAT units. The operation was codenamed Sandfall, referring to the relentless collapse of the fugitives' once carefully constructed empire. But the mission carried enormous risk. Ryder Kelm had designed the safe house himself, and every blueprint the task force reviewed revealed layers of traps, fallback exits, and contingency plans. The couple wasn't just hiding, they had fortified their location like a battlefield. Outpost. Surveillance drones provided live feeds of the property from multiple angles. From above, the house appeared ordinary, a low-profile structure camouflaged by desert shrubs and rock formations. But infrared scans revealed heat signatures underground, suggesting tunnels and concealed rooms beneath the surface. Motion sensors. Disguised as rocks and fake animal skulls littered the property, triggering silent alarms if anyone got too close. Inside, Elora and Ryder monitored everything from a hidden control room, watching live feeds on laptops and communicating with cartel affiliates through encrypted radio channels. Meanwhile, Callan Rourke's betrayal unfolded in secret meetings with law enforcement. Rourke, terrified for his life, handed over critical access codes, backdoor routes, and internal cartel schedules. His information was precise, but he failed to account for how deeply Ryder and Elora distrusted him. The couple had anticipated this move for weeks. They installed new security layers, booby-trapped the main entry points, and reinforced the escape routes leading into the desert. Unknown to the task force, Ryder had set up his own network of lookouts using cartel runners loyal to him, not Rourke. These spotters were stationed along back roads and gas stations miles from the safe house. If law enforcement mobilized in large numbers, Ryder would know long before they reached the property. But the D adjusted their approach. They staged fake traffic accidents on main highways to disguise their movements. Tactical teams moved in unmarked vans with license plates cloned from civilian vehicles, while drones maintained low-altitude silent observation to avoid detection. On the morning of the planned fentanyl deal, Elora and Ryder prepared for the exchange with militant precision. Ryder cleaned and loaded his AK-47, the gold-plated magazine glinting under the harsh desert light. Elora organized the shipment, counting stacks of cash, fentanyl bricks, and cryptocurrency wallets on a table lined with weapons and maps. Couple knew this might be their last run, but they believed they had outsmarted everyone. Their bunker had escape tunnels, fallback locations, and a plan to disappear into Mexico if things went wrong. But Operation Sandfall was already underway. D agents, disguised as contractors, had planted wireless listening devices around the safe house days earlier. They intercepted real-time conversations, learning the couple's routines, security rotations, and weaknesses. The task force chose to strike just before dawn, knowing fatigue and routine would dull even the sharpest fugitives. At 4:17 a.m., under the cover of darkness, the raid began. Drones dropped tear gas canisters through the attic vents while flashbang. Grenades disoriented the lookout station near the perimeter. Tactical teams breached the property from multiple angles, using thermal imaging to track movement inside the tunnels. As the agents stormed the main house, Elora triggered a panic alarm, activating their escape sequence. Ryder led her through the basement tunnel system, armed and ready to shoot their way out. What the couple didn't know was that Agent Rudd had already anticipated this move. Earlier, an undercover unit had infiltrated the tunnels, setting up motion-triggered lights and cameras. The moment Ryder and Elora entered the passageway, the sensors activated, exposing them to SWAT teams waiting at the other end. Floodlights burst on, blinding them. Surrounded and outgunned, the couple was forced to make a choice: fight or surrender. Their war against the system was crumbling faster than they expected. The final moments of Elora Vance and Ryder Kelm's crime spree unfolded in chaos beneath the New Mexico desert. As the tunnel floodlights exploded into brightness, the couple realized they had underestimated the law enforcement teams chasing them. For months, they had maneuvered through backroads and safe houses, always a step ahead. But now, trapped underground with nowhere left to run, they faced the collapse of everything they'd built. Ryder gripped his AK-47, his finger resting against the trigger guard, his mind racing through options. The tunnel stretched behind him, but the escape routes were no longer safe. Unknown to him, SWAT teams had already sealed the other ends. Tactical shields and thermal goggles awaited them at every possible exit. Elora clutched a duffel bag packed with fentanyl bricks, stacks of cash, and 2 fake passports. Her heart pounded, but she refused to drop the bag. It represented months of planning and risk. In her mind, surrender meant more than losing freedom. It meant losing control, something she swore would never happen. Above ground, Agent Micah Rudd coordinated the raid from a mobile command center. Real-time drone footage showed the property's perimeter secure, the lookout points neutralized, and the surveillance feeds inside the tunnel relayed directly to his monitors. He gave the order to proceed with non-lethal force, knowing the cartel would respond violently if the fugitives were killed on the spot. Arresting Elora and Ryder alive was the mission's priority, but everyone knew that wouldn't be easy. Inside the tunnel, the air was thick with dust and adrenaline. Ryder fired warning shots into the darkness, his AK-47 echoing in the narrow passage, but the agents held their ground. Tear gas canisters rolled into the tunnel from hidden side vents, filling the space with a sharp, choking cloud. Elora coughed, her eyes watering, but still refused to let go of the duffel bag. Ryder hesitated for a split second, then reached for a sidearm tucked into his vest, a move that triggered immediate response. Tactical officers rushed forward, restraining him with swift, practiced precision. Elora tried to crawl back toward the main house entrance, but agents blocked her path, forcing her to the ground. The operation concluded in under 7 minutes. Outside, sunrise lit the desert in pale gold as agents escorted Elora and Ryder out of the tunnels in handcuffs. The suburban neighborhood that masked their criminal empire was now swarmed with law enforcement vehicles, helicopters overhead, and media vans gathering in the distance. Neighbors stood behind police tape, watching silently as the couple once. Their quiet, attractive neighbors were led away as fugitives. The search of the property uncovered more than authorities expected. Beneath false walls in the basement, agents found encrypted hard drives documenting cartel routes, safe house locations, and lists of compromised officials suspected of aiding drug runs. Hidden caches of weapons and cryptocurrency wallets painted a clear picture. Elora and Ryder had not just been running drugs. They had built a parallel network designed to withstand years on the run. Their arrests sent shockwaves through multiple criminal organizations. Cartel affiliates across the Southwest went silent, burning phones and abandoning stash houses to avoid capture. Dozens of cartel-linked individuals were arrested in coordinated raids that followed the couple's capture. In total, law enforcement seized over $14 million in fentanyl, weapons, and cash directly tied to Elora and Ryder's operations. In court, both refused to cooperate. Their trial became a media spectacle, with footage of the raid replayed across national news channels. Prosecutors labeled them domestic cartel operatives, while defense attorneys argued they were manipulated by larger criminal forces. But the jury saw through the excuses. Elora, Vance, and Ryder Kelm were sentenced to life in federal prison without the possibility of parole. The case closed with one of the largest drug and weapons seizures in recent U.S. history. The story of the Fugitive Lovers with AK-47s became legend, a warning of how quickly ordinary lives can spiral into extraordinary crime, and how even the most carefully constructed escape plans eventually fall apart.